This activity is called Move It. It's an activity for a grade 6 class and it's on the topic of geometry. So you would need some pre-prepared grid paper. The students need pens and pencils of different colours, maybe rulers, and for a later activity you'll need a large scale elastic band, some pre-cut regular and irregular shapes on a large scale, so hopefully A3 or even A4, and access to an open area space, so maybe a hall or the courtyard or something. So first of all, you start in the classroom using the grid paper with a Y and X axis. So here on the left, you'd get the students to draw a 5-sided shape. I've just chosen 5 sides to keep it simple. And then you'd have the students label each point with A, B, C, D, and E. Then you would tell them that we're going to create the mirror image or the reflection over into this second quadrant here. So you do point out that the first, second, third, and fourth quadrants are like that, and it does go anti-clockwise. So to do it, they can count, like over on this right hand side, you can count point A, count 1, 2 over to the line of axis, and then count 1, 2 over to the other side. So they could transfer that A over there and then do the same from B. Count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and put the B there, and then continue like that. So they could transfer the C, the D, and the E over and then fill in the shape. If they've got it, they can, possibly just do it from transferring 2 points and then drawing the rest of the shape. It depends how much they get it. So you'd ask them to do that with all 4 quadrants. On this one, I've got on the last 4th quadrant here, I've got the child just to translate each point. Like I said before, it depends how well they can visualize that image being mirror image flipped over and then flipped again and then flipped again as to how they want to draw it. So you'll end up with an image like this one in the middle. So they've got the 4 images or reflections of each other. And on the right hand side here, I've had the student draw lines with the yellow highlighter from point A to point A and point B to point B, C to C, D to D, and E to E. And I asked them what do they notice about this line, and hopefully I'll elicit that they are all parallel to this y-axis. So that points out that one, the first image, is a reflection of the second. And then I would get them to do the same with this, and I would point out that each is a reflection. So these, where the red arrows are, that's a reflection. Those 2 are reflections, those 2 and those 2, and I've just labelled it down the bottom. Moving on to translations. I would use grid paper again and get them just to draw any 5-sided square, and then first I'd ask them how would we translate or move this image on the page without it changing shape. So I'd hopefully elicit that we would choose a point, any point, and count X amount of squares that we want to move. So here this image has been moved 5 squares. So I've taken this original point here, I think it is A, and I've counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I've color coded each point, and I've done that with every single point. So then it's just a matter of completing the shape like it is here on the right hand side. So then you talk about translations. To do the rotations, I had a bit of trouble trying to articulate it myself. So I thought what would be best is to take the children to an area where we could spread out and physically do it with our own bodies. So you would need access to a hall or the courtyard or just an open space. And I would have the pre-cutouts of the shapes. And I would get a student to stand with a large-scale elastic band around their ankles. So I'd get the student to stand in the middle, and that student would be the point of rotation. And they would put the elastics around their not their wrists, their ankles, and then I would model explicitly how to do a rotation by holding a shape in my hands, or possibly even on my head, because I want the students to see that with the rotation, the shape doesn't change, but it's as if it's a plane with a point that is leading, that is going around in a circle. So for me to be able to explain this to the students, I would have to physically do it, and that's why I've done the first two activities on paper, but the rotation activity I'd have to go and show them. So I'd use the large scale shapes, and I'd get them to do that all the while talking about it, and then I'd get other students to be the point of rotation, and we'd change the point of rotation. We'd make it above the shape, below the shape, to the left, to the right, wherever, and then change the direction of the rotation as well, and hopefully that would concrete the concept just a bit more than if they're just writing it. So language around this activity would be translation, reflection, rotation, move along, slide, turn, mirror, mirror image. Misconceptions could definitely be the rotations. One way I thought of talking about the rotation is to mention a clock face, but then I thought they could have a misconception because the second and minute hands and the hour hands on the clock face are always pointing outwards. So I wanted to introduce that concept of having the circle on the rotation, but I would have to specifically point out that the arrows on the clock are always facing outwards, whereas the shape that is being rotated is like a plane. It always has a point that is leading. So to make it easy, I would probably first off choose a triangle or something with a point, or maybe even an irregular shape like a house or even a flower, and lead with something obvious. Lead with the stem of the flower, lead with the point of the house, lead with the point of the triangle, so that they could get that concept. Another misconception is they don't understand the notion of translation. So simply just sliding it along. They might use the grid incorrectly. They could miscount when they are rotating when they're translating. And one misconception I came across myself, I tried to do the rotation on the grid paper, and while say on this image right here on the left, I was using point E to move around, and while it matched up on an intersection of the grid, point D didn't. So I would have to be careful about when I use grid paper and when I don't. And that's it.